fans attacked Gene Simmons' son. Paul Stanley stepped in. The world of rock and roll has always been filled with loud opinions, strong personalities, and moments that quickly turn into headlines. Recently, one such moment brought attention back to two legendary figures, Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons. But this time, the spotlight wasn't directly on their music or performances. Instead, it centered on a more personal issue involving Gene Simmons' son and the wave of criticism that followed him online. What made this situation stand out wasn't just the backlash itself, but how Paul Stanley stepped forward to defend him in a way that reminded fans of the deeper bonds behind the fame. It all began when Gene Simmons' son found himself at the center of online criticism. As with many situations involving celebrity families, opinions spread quickly, often without full context. Social media amplified the noise, turning what might have been a small issue into a trending discussion. People began sharing their thoughts, some supportive but many harsh and judgmental. For someone who didn't choose the spotlight in the same way his father did, the intensity of the attention became overwhelming. This is where Paul Stanley entered the conversation, known not only as the frontman of Kiss, but also as someone who values loyalty and respect. Stanley didn't stay silent. Instead, he used his voice to shift the narrative. In his response, he didn't attack critics or escalate the situation. Rather, he approached it with a calm but firm tone, emphasizing empathy and perspective. He reminded people that behind every public figure, especially the children of celebrities, there is a real human being dealing with real emotions. Stanley's defense wasn't just about protecting Gene Simmons' son, it was also about addressing a larger issue that has become increasingly common in the digital age. The ease with which people can criticize others online often leads to a lack of accountability. Comments that might never be said face-to-face are posted without hesitation. Stanley highlighted this indirectly, encouraging people to think before they speak and to consider the impact of their words. What made his response particularly powerful was the history between him and Gene Simmons. Their relationship has spanned decades, filled with both collaboration and challenges. As founding members of Kiss, they've experienced the highs and lows of fame together. That shared history created a sense of loyalty that extended beyond their professional lives. By standing up for Simmons' son, Stanley showed that their bond isn't just about music, it's about family. Fans quickly noticed the sincerity in Stanley's words. Many praised him for taking a stand, not in an aggressive way, but in a thoughtful and respectful manner. His response served as a reminder that defending someone doesn't always require confrontation. Sometimes it's about bringing attentions back to humanity and understanding. At the same time, the situation sparked a broader conversation among fans and observers. People began discussing the pressures faced by children of famous individuals. Unlike their parents, they often don't choose a public career, yet they still find themselves under scrutiny. Every action, every mistake, and sometimes even their mere presence becomes a topic of discussion. Stanley's defense helped bring awareness to this reality, encouraging a more compassionate perspective. The media also picked up on the story, framing it as a moment of unity between two iconic rock figures. While headlines focused on the drama, many deeper analyses pointed out the significance of Stanley's approach. Instead of fueling controversy, he redirected attention toward respect and understanding. In a landscape where negativity often gains the most traction, this shift stood out. For Gene Simmons, the situation was undoubtedly personal. As a father, seeing his child face public criticism is never easy. While Simmons himself is known for his bold and outspoken personality, this moment wasn't about him. It was about his son. Having someone like Paul Stanley step in to offer support likely carried a deeper meaning, reinforcing the idea that their connection goes beyond the stage. As the conversation continued, more voices joined in, echoing Stanley's message. Fans and fellow musicians alike emphasized the importance of kindness, especially in situations involving family members who aren't directly part of the public spotlight. The narrative slowly began to change, moving away from criticism and toward reflection. This moment also highlighted the evolving role of public figures in addressing online behavior. In the past, celebrities might have ignored such situations, choosing to stay silent. But today, many recognize the influence they have in shaping conversations. Stanley's decision to speak up demonstrated how that influence can be used responsibly, setting an example for others. Ultimately, the first wave of the story wasn't just about controversy, it was about response. It showed how one voice, when used thoughtfully, can shift the tone of an entire discussion. Paul Stanley didn't just defend Gene Simmons' son, he reminded people of the importance of empathy in a world that often moves too quickly to judge. As the situation continued to unfold, the impact of Paul Stanley's words became more evident. What initially seemed like just another moment of online criticism gradually turned into a broader reflection on how people interact in the digital age. Stanley's response didn't just fade away, it lingered, prompting conversations that extended beyond the immediate issue. One of the key reasons his defense resonated so strongly was its authenticity. It didn't feel like a calculated statement or a public relations move. Instead, it came across as genuine concern, both for Gene Simmons' son and for the way people were engaging with the situation. That authenticity made it easier for others to connect with his message and reconsider their own perspectives. In many ways, this moment highlighted the difference between reacting and responding. While much of the online criticism was reactive, driven by quick judgments and emotional responses, Stanley's approach was measured and intentional. He took a step back, considered the bigger picture, and chose his words carefully. That contrast made his voice stand out even more.